Now, it'd be nice to imagine that scientists actually approach the problem without having a personal agenda and without bringing their own biases and ideologies to their research. So let's have a little bit of a critical think about video game violence. So the first cases when video game violence raised interest was Death Race in 1976, which is just your stick man being run over by this image of a car. But how could I look at what's going on in society and figure out if video game violence is genuinely a problem? So what you've got to do is think about correlation and causation. So rich people drive Ferraris. If I go out and I buy a Ferrari, am I going to become rich? Well, no, the two things are correlated, but they're not causative. Buying the Ferrari doesn't make me a rich person. It's the other way around. I'm a rich person, therefore I drive a Ferrari. So lots of things can be connected to each other, but it doesn't mean that they necessarily cause each other. So bringing some critical thinking to video game violence is really important. What you're trying to do is figure out, is there actually a mechanism of causation, a way that thing can be causing something to happen? Now, there is a model which is sensitization, which is suggesting that people get desensitized to violence by playing violent video games and therefore become more violent in real life. Video games have become much more commonplace for everybody to play them, and also much more realistic in the recent years. So what you would expect if video games were actually causing a significant rise in violent crime would be, as video games become much more common and much more widely available, violent crime would go up. If I look at the violent crime statistics, so we're looking at 1993 is when we first really get some sort of panic. So that's Doom, Mortal Kombat and Doom time. Now if you look from 1993, the number of offences for the United States has gone from a peak of 700 down to about 400 now, so it's halved. 400 in 2014. This does not fit very easily with your narrative of suggesting the video games are causing an increase in violent crime. As video games became much more culturally available, particularly in the 2000s, you would have expected crime statistics to go up. So maybe this is just a one-off anecdotal thing that's happening in the US, and it's not true in other countries. But if I go and have a look in the UK, I see pretty much the same kind of trend. Crime statistics have been falling since about 1993, 94. So precisely when the violent video games arrived, crime's going down. So this allows you to potentially construct another narrative which says violent video games are actually really good for the community. They're preventing violent crime. Now, I don't think that's probably true either. There are good reasons why crime has gone down recently. The simplest of explanations. So if you read the book where they investigate all these kind of investigations, which I now fail to remember what it is called. So there's been various things. So glass window theory, the idea that you have zero tolerance. The abortion has been suggested to be a particular effect on this. But probably the simplest and most likely explanation is something that forensics has changed so dramatically because of DNA fingerprinting. Now, it's incredibly hard for a criminal to not leave some DNA evidence on the crime scene. So our basic ability of the police to catch criminals is massively better than it was before. And this has come out since the 1990s. So that probably is the reason why all the crime statistics have gone down, and video games plays absolutely no part in it whatsoever. The odd thing, though, is that our perceptions of crime have not changed, even though the reality has. So while violent crime rates have halved, our actual perception of crime rates hasn't changed at all. And this is a serious issue because it's to do with proximity and how we're exposed to the media. So whenever you're asking any kind of question, it's really important that you think critically. You have to think, what is the agenda? What is of the person who's doing this research? What is their narrative, and is that narrative consistent with the evidence around them? Because no matter how good and how careful people try to be with their scientific investigations and proving links and doing causation, it is very easy to find some connection that you believe should be there when it isn't. And you have to think, have they made this type 1 error? Have they seen something when it's not there just because they needed to believe that?